Everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys what parts you're going to want to keep for if you have any like scrap equipment. Like this is weed eater here that the pull start broke and it was too expensive to fix. So I'm just going to show you guys in this video what parts you're going to want to keep off these things if you work on a lot of small engines. Okay, so here I have some tools laid out that I like to work with. I have a set of bits here. This is pretty cheap from Amazon. I have a little impact to remove the screws because it's just faster than using a regular screwdriver. I have some pliers, some rags, and I have a container for all of my small engine parts to go in. And I'll be showing you guys more of this later. Okay, so the first part I would recommend keeping is the trimmer head, because sometimes if you get these, and it's all cracked, and they're kind of expensive for a new one. So I would just keep this one, and it'll fit on most other trimmers. Okay, so I've gone ahead and removed the trimmer head from the end of the trimmer shaft here. All you have to do is unscrew this little knob and then just pull this whole thing out, and it'll slide off of the shaft right here. And this hex that you see is pretty much the same on like an MTD, or this is a home light, so it's kind of the same. And yeah, so this will fit on many different models of weed eaters. Okay, so the next part I would recommend keeping is the little handle here, because sometimes you buy these weed eaters from Kijiji or whatever, and they're all in the handles, like someone has dropped the trimmer and it's cracked. And again, these are pretty expensive to buy, as are all of the parts on this machine. So yeah. Okay, so to remove the handle, you just have to unscrew this little wing nut here all the way and remove the bolt, and then it should slide off of the shaft. Okay, so once you get the handle off of the shaft, just my little tip I do is I always put the bolt back in and keep the nut with the bolt so that you don't lose it. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the engine and what parts to keep. But first, I'm just going to tell you that I don't recommend keeping the throttle cable, because sometimes the metal inside of them kind of breaks and it's not worth keeping. Okay, so the first part I would consider keeping is going to be the ignition coil and the spark plug. So to remove the ignition coil, you're going to need... Okay, so to remove the ignition coil, on my model, it's just 2 T25 screws. Here's one, there's 2. And then for the spark plug, it's going to be your small spark plug socket on most units. Oh, and also don't forget to remove the little wire. Okay, so the next part I would consider keeping is going to be the gas cap, because sometimes these get old and they leak, and it's good to have a spare that you know is like going to be good. So just unscrew it and put it with your other parts. Okay, so the next part I would consider keeping is going to be the carburetor. So to get it off, you're going to need a this is a 3/8 socket, and there's just 2 little nuts holding it on. Okay, so now once you have the air filter assembly off, you can go ahead and just pull the carburetor off and remove the fuel lines. And also, I would not recommend keeping the fuel lines, because they'll just go hard and cracked eventually. And if you work on a lot of small engines, you're probably gonna have the fuel lines. But if you don't, the fuel lines are pretty cheap at like Canadian Tire. They're like $10. They're like $10 for a set. Okay, so that'll do. So that's going to do it with taking parts off of the weed eater. And so the parts that I'm left with are ignition coil and spark plug, trimmer head, the handle that you hold on to, the carburetor, and the gas cap. Okay, so next we're going to talk about cleaning the parts. I like to use a rag and just wipe everything down, but you can also use like spray 9 and just coat the parts in spray 9 and just wipe it off as well. Or some old gas and a paintbrush also works really good. Okay, so once you're done cleaning all your parts, you can put them away like however you want. I just have one of these like divider trays. The bottom part also opens up in these more containers. But yeah, as you can see, I have some starter handles, a fuel valve, a feeler gauge, some spark plugs, some fuel filters, some primer bulbs. I have a random head gasket for a lawnmower. But yeah, these are all great parts to keep. And also, if you're working on a lot of recoils, you might want to keep like the handle, because sometimes you get like a weed eater or a leaf blower, and if the handle's bad, like it can really hurt your hands. You can get blisters. So just have a couple of nice ones lying around. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Hope you enjoyed the video.